Hi, I'm Diane McGarry with Drake Arts.
And I'm Tom McGarry, also with Drake Arts.
Welcome to our interview with March poet Patrice Pinette. Patrice is inspired by the alchemy between the arts in her own practice and in collaboration with other artists, writers, and musicians in workshops, readings, and exhibits. She brings the love of literature and writing to Antioch University's New England's Masters of Education in Waldorf Education, Transdisciplinary Focus on Healing Education, the Center for Anthroposophy's Renewal courses, and to adult learners of English in New Hampshire Humanities Connection Programs. Patrice received her MFA in writing from Vermont College of Fine Arts, and her poems have appeared in many places, including Poet Showcase, an anthology of New Hampshire poets, the Inflectionist Review, Allegro Poetry Magazine, Connecticut River Review, Evening Street Review, and lately, in a new published anthology, COVID Spring, Granite State Pandemic Poems, edited by Alexandria Peary. Thank you so much for joining us today, Patrice.
It is my pleasure. It's great to meet you and just share this time with you around the arts, particularly poetry.
So how did you become a poet?
That's such a great question. The obvious one, but everyone has their own story. I think my passion for poetry was really sparked as a teenager, and I was lucky to have some great teachers. So early on, I think I was captured by something like Shakespeare's sonnets, where the music of the language just seemed so phenomenal, intoxicating almost. And then I think also, maybe I share something, a little grain with Walt Whitman, who also grew up on Long Island, and for whom going to the ocean and being at the sea was really an inspiration. So although it sounds very cliched, my experience as a teenager, seeing moonlight on the water, I think was one of those first things I remember wanting to describe, wanting so badly to find words for that kind of beauty. And so I just, I pursued studies of literature, of poetry in college and so on. And then, Diana, as you may remember, I even went on to study the dance of poetry, Eurythmia, where I learned a kind of alphabet of gestures. So I could dance poetry as well as write poetry. So that's just a little bit of background.
So Eurythmia is not something that's widely known to people. That's something that came out of Rudolf Steiner's many, many visions of how human beings could be. So you described it as poetry through movement?
Well, one of my great mentors, Sabina Nordhoff, great eurythmist and watercolorist and writer herself, she described Eurythmia as a whirling alphabet in space.
Oh, cool.
Whirling alphabet in space, where every sound of speech has a shape and a form and a gesture. And so to do Eurythmia, we learn what kind of gestures are inherent in the sound. So this is not such a new idea that sound connects to form and engenders form, but to learn it and then work with it artistically and create choreography based on this dance of sound. And there's tone eurythmia, of course, also doing gestures to reveal the tones and the intervals, the energies of music. And then I was just so amazed that it existed, that I could dance poems, because I think I had felt already this magic of the poetry sounds. That even before you grasp the full meaning, before you can interpret something, some poets more than others play with and sculpt with the beautiful connection of sounds. And so I thought, oh my gosh, this is magic. And now here's another dimension, not just words on the page, but words flowing in dance.
That is so cool. What a wonderful way to describe it as well. And you also work with watercolors with poems.
Mostly pastels, actually. And Yeah, so I have some great friends who are artists in many mediums. And I must say, something of their creative spark has rubbed off over the years. And where writing became more of kind of a discipline, it's both, as a process, I begin a poem, something again just sparks my interest, an image, a sound, a new connection that I hadn't thought of before, a question. And so my writing process is very free. However, I'm very disciplined about revision, and I go over a poem and I really work it. So I started working with pastels almost as a counterpoint, where I didn't expect anything of myself. And it was purely play. It was purely exploratory. And I let the colors just arise, forms arise. And I didn't have any standard I was trying to meet. But I witnessed my friends just in that, again, that just the spontaneity. Now, they had more training, but I loved their freedom. So that's how I got into doing it. Then a number of years ago, it might be almost, I don't know, around 6 years ago, I was meeting with a poet friend, and we were in a cafe and looking around at art on the walls. And she said, poetry should just be more available in our normal life. Why don't we see poetry on the walls? And so we created something we called the Visual Poetry Collective.
Huh.
And we invited artists, other New Hampshire artists. We were 6 poets. And each person had the challenge to pair poetry and art of some kind. So a few of us paired our own artwork with our poems, and some other people found collaborative works. So that also just bumped it up, where I thought, I've got my pastels, now which poems? And so I didn't start with my poem and think, oh, what will I do? But I thought, it's my signature in writing, so to speak. Like something of my being is in the image as well, visual.
And here we have one.
So here's an example. So would you like to hear it?
I would love to hear it.
I'll just give you a tiny bit of background. I was reading an essay by the great poet Robert Bly, who also is an amazing teacher and spokesman for poetry. But he was really reflecting on the human condition. And he imagined, he said, how different would it be for us to meet one another, to have that human encounter, if we could picture that in every human being, there's a sun rising within them. And this idea of a sun sort of radiating out of every human being, how differently would we live if we could meet people and imagine that?
Wow.
So that's sort of the where this idea of the sun came from. So I'll read it from my page. First, I'll begin again. Finger painting. First, picture a sun rising in the body of your enemy. It may be an angry sun at first, stamped or smudged with a red fingerprint. It will feel like winter all over again, fire on the hearth consuming itself, leaving black ribbons, charred wands, a chill in the heart. When night's shadow falls like a tree across the hands buried in your lap, adapt to a low ceiling, go starless. Every species that ever lived has been betrayed. Thousands of years of disappointments shrink or stretch us. Someone's bitter thumbprint, an eclipse of the moon. A sun is rising in the interior of more than 7 billion bodies. Eyes look out at us from their birth. Irises blue, violet, green, and brown, the whites milky and mild. Pride gives us silver pieces to spend in the spinning galaxy. But the remedy for hate is to paint a sun rising in the breast of your enemy, and then to sleep.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So thank you. The other great privilege I've had and pleasure is working collaboratively with musicians. And I know I told you, Diane, that's how in a way I first began speaking with you.
Yes.
So we were speaking earlier about the need for more art and culture. And one of the ways that I think has really helped me to enter into different social situations and educational situations is to come with a conversation between the arts.
Mm.
So now someone who is maybe not so comfortable with poetry is hearing the harp. And so the harp is almost like a conduit into the language or the tone or the mood of the energy of the language. So yeah, so I am lucky to have those experiences and to bring them to people, and then also to write with people. I feel like I've had some of the best work. And one of the greatest things anyone can tell me, the highest praise, is that after a poetry reading, if someone says, oh my gosh, now I want to write too.
Oh, wow.
I can't wait to go home and see what I can write. And I love, see, creativity is contagious, and that's why we need it as much as we can get it. And even those people who may not respond so much to the work of art, to actually participate in the making of art is just, it's restorative, it's energizing, and it's surprising. We need surprise, don't we?
Oh,
It
yeah,
just
we definitely
gives
do.
us that lift of the unexpected and takes us out of this feeling of, oh, not this again. Just to create something new.
It's so
One
true.
definition of art that I like a lot is art is concentrated play. And in this country, we think of it as this, highbrow thing that you have to go off and study to do, but really that's not it at all.
No, that's a great one. And we can learn that obviously from children.
Oh, yeah.
Who have no qualms about being an artist or a writer, when they can hold a pen, or to dictate, right? To dictate for the parents to write down their stories and poems. So thank you. That's a great reminder.
Would you mind sharing us some other poems?
Oh, I'd be glad to. You mentioned this new anthology.
Oh, yes.
Coming out of New Hampshire. And just a little background. So my daughter had her first child, our first grandchild, in July. So thank you. It's been a great joy for us. And it was a strange juxtaposition to have this sort of bubbling up, this effervescent joy and delight around the child coming, while COVID was, just settling over everything, just with a pall, with a terrible shadow, terrible suffering in the world. And I just felt I just tried to address this, the tension between those two things. And also, I think the polarities are at the heart of creativity also, right?
Oh, yes.
Light and dark. I mean, it's, I once heard the great poet Donald Hall say, there's no truly great poem in English that is only happy. And that stayed with me, because I thought, again, it's not that we don't want joy. We totally want joy in our poems. We want uplifting poetry, but sometimes the springboard of a shadow, you know, just intensifies the light in a way. It gives us that extra. So, so that's how this poem arose, was thinking about the strangeness of our personal gladness in the face of, and not only the world outside, but we're still also fearful. You know, we all carry just the tension and the challenges of COVID. So this is called Pregnancy During a Pandemic. We talk about happiness while the grief of nations far exceeds the number of its masks. But don't say lightness of heart is mere defense, pretense, or defiance in the face of contagion. Rather, this wish made flesh, this uprush of joy, serious enough, takes its place in the vast play of history and prophecy, end times towards what else? Birth. Expecting at the mercy of everything, time, touch, togetherness. Who will go out too soon? Sooner or late, world wonders and fears press in with their weight. Counterweight, floating sunrise. From quiet, words blossom beyond sorrows, dreaming of baby names, counting the days, immunity for all.
Wow, that's gorgeous. What is her name?
Well, my daughter's name is Ariana. The baby's name is Callum, a boy, and he's thriving. And my husband Gary is so glad to be back with the family and back with this beautiful little boy.
Well, may they continue to be strong and healthy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have another poem for us, perhaps?
Yes, I wonder which one would be good. Let's see.
Just give people a taste.
Yeah.
Kind of tweak their appetite.
Sure. Well, this one I just, you know, I gathered. So often I create books around, you know, poetry readings. And so I have a number of such things. I think this one that came to mind is, oh, I know. I have two short ones maybe for you if we have time. I can find the other one. Have a look. This one is Feeding the Fire. Do you have a wood stove or?
Oh yeah.
Love them.
So, you know, living in New Hampshire, and what's happened also, I mean, this is not a new poem, this one, but our boiler broke.
Oh goodness.
Which for backup heat. And at this time of year, it's not that easy to get someone to replace it.
No.
So, so we have to be extra careful. You know, we don't want to let the fire go out. So much depends on the fire, need I say more, and warmth, you know. So this was a kind of almost a fantasy revolving around the fire and how our relationship to it across the seasons, actually, even. So feeding the fire. Feeding the fire stirs us too in our wooden boxes. Low thunder of the black stove reaches our sleep. Covered in ashes, we sleep the sleep of winter. Last embers under powder, dreaming of a torch. It comes a distance, carried from the summer, its blue blossom arising in the morning. We keep the fire, its burning flower, perennial.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. Do we have time for one more, Diane?
Oh, yes, definitely.
I just came across one that I wrote at this time of year last year.
We actually have time for a few more, Patrice.
Okay. Yes, I think it was very close to this time of year, just a little bit later when in New England, the snow is that much grayer.
Okay.
And the longing begins way before it can be fulfilled, you know, to have spring, to have some rejuvenation. And my husband and I were driving back from visiting family in New York, and we passed a man by the side of the road selling, he had a little sign saying pure honey.
Oh.
Wow.
So this is called Pure Honey. We take a detour on the long way home. Still winter in Vermont, we pass a roadside stand selling honey. I wave to the beekeeper as we drive by. His eyes reply, "Who are you? Do I know you?" Another lover, I want to say, of the word pure. Longing for the sweet new life, the next life. As in a dream, a man at the side of the road, his little table set up with glass jars, amber, gleaming, devotion of bees, hidden seeds, a sting to the heart. His little table set up with glass jars, amber, gleaming, devotion of bees, hidden seeds, a sting to the heart.
There's nothing like pure honey.
Yeah.
I know. And just, you know, the heart can get tired. And I think right now, you know, and it's not just the end of winter, it's beyond the common compassion also for people who are working so hard to keep us safe, people, you know, losing family members or suffering from loneliness, if not illness. So the heart can get heavy, and we long for that sweet next life, which is still a ways away. But this, again, back to your great theme, Diane and Tom, as sort of benefactors, as people who are carrying the arts forward into community, that before the days get warm, you know, before we can bask in the sun, be with our loved ones outside easily, you are offering the arts, you know, a variety of arts and voices to refresh the heart.
Well, thank you.
And give hope. And I just think that is fantastic. I just want to honor the work that you're doing.
Thank you. That's very sweet of you. We see it as very important. I'm a musician and my daughter's a writer, and I'm also very visual. So bringing music with a visual gallery, an art gallery, right, with writing and letting people just experience all three together is so vital, because, you know, I love going to the Boston Symphony and other concerts, but I also like going to the Museum of Fine Arts and other art galleries, and I love reading. You know, we tend to get in just one groove and forget that there's so much more. That's why I really love the fact that you both write poems, but also put them with your pastels and have put them with music, because we aren't mono people, we're multiple layers of people, and it makes such a difference to recognize that and allow it.
Well, also that I feel like you have a I mean, you experienced what I had put in, you know, what you described about my biography of just inspiration from these alchemical friendships between the arts, how they enrich each other, prompt each other. You know, while it was my story, it's your story also. And so it's great to have that kinship and be able to share in that today and other days, I hope too.
Oh yeah, of course.
So let's see. Forgive me while I lean into my screen.
No
That's
problem.
right. We are very patiently awaiting your fine words.
Thank you so much.
It paints lovely pictures that way. It's words are so powerful.
Well, they are, and that's the other thing in our culture. The words have suffered a lot. Truth and that idea that that words can carry the soul,
Right.
You know, the authentic inner life is in itself a kind of healing that we can offer each other, both in these pure honey conversations that we're having right now, but also through the art, through the arts, and poetry is a great one for that. I think what I'll share right now is a poem called As If. This is in the Hampden-Sydney Poetry Review. And while I'm talking about, you know, hope and empathy and everything, you know, to be fair, we all go through those times where we do shrink and, you know, the shadows come out in us. You know, it's very easy to take things personally, to take things amiss. And so I'm just sharing an experience of my own search kind of for reconciliation with someone, but having to go through a process. So it's called As If. She was cold. I grew colder. My resentment, many-faceted, felt beautiful. A diamond that cost me. I'll say that again. My resentment, many-faceted, felt beautiful. A diamond that cost me. I don't need to mention the years, not a lifetime passed when she wrote, "We could still have tea, yes?" What could I say? We set a time as if this time could undo the other. I'll tell you what she said, what I said, and so on, like two friends. Into the silence between her question and my answer, an epic rain fell. Into the silence between her question and my answer, an epic rain fell. At the next table, a religious lady spoke about mercy as if we were born to it.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
On that note, we have to end here, but please, people, come and join us at 2 o'clock on Saturday, March 20th to hear more of Patrice's beautiful poetry. Reserve your spot at drakeatarts.com.
Thank you so much, Diane and Tom. It's been a great time being with you.